Welcome back to the CCS League. I'm Niall, a Masters mid laner, and today I'm joined here by Elsa.
Hi, good to see y'all.
Back
We
once
also have.
again.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I was gonna say we got a special guest, just like last week. We got Omnific. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey,
Welcome to
what's
the
up?
stream.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. I'm the AD carry for Limitless feature in the CCS League, and yeah, excited to do this. I've never done this before, so it'll be interesting.
Yes, sir. So let's just get right into it. Let's get into some good old CCS talk. So first of all, last night we saw Lost Chapter versus Oblivion Esports 2-0. That was a quite impressive showing. Elsa, what do you think?
So yeah, obviously Lost Chapter looked absolutely dominant in this victory. Gregorio in particular in the jungle. He played the Jarvan in the first game, Lee Sin in the second game, and he really snowballed off that early jungle pressure to just absolutely smash Oblivion Esports. Because it was a 2-0 Oblivion, they're mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. And it was just really a clinic from Lost Chapter, especially in the second game. They got ahead and they never looked back. Just very impressive from them.
Yes, sir. Omnific, as a competitor against Lost Chapter and Oblivion, were you expecting this? What are your thoughts on each of the teams?
I mean, Lost Chapter definitely, yeah. I mean, they're definitely a powerhouse right now, and I would not expect anything less from them, especially going up against Oblivion. No offense, but I mean, I just assumed that was going to be a 2-0, like no matter what. Yeah, I mean, just their whole macro play in general, they've got it down, man. Like they're a pretty tight knit team.
Seems like respect all around to Lost
Oh yeah.
Chapter.
Yeah, and I wanted to know Omnific too, kind of in, you gave a little bit of your thoughts of how they have kind of strong macro, but when I was looking back through the standings, like I noticed that only 2 games throughout the entire CCS season or split were dropped by Lost Chapter, and one of them was to Limitless Future. I know that was all the way back in week 3, but do you remember that? What kind of stood out against this team, and how were you able to kind of come up with a recipe for success against them in at least one of the games?
I personally don't remember entirely the whole game, but I do remember that we got ahead really early, and our bot lane we were smashing, and our top lane Pasnor at the time, he was doing really good, and we were just able to get out of lane, and Snowlife being our shot caller, like once he gets out of lane, I mean, he can take over a game macro wise. So I think we just got the lead that we needed early enough to be able to like keep the lead long enough to win it.
Makes sense. Yeah.
I mean, as is in amateur play. Some teams may be a powerhouse, but no team is invincible. No team is guaranteed victory before a match, and no team is guaranteed a loss before a match. So, although Lost Chapter being an absolute powerhouse so far, who knows what the future will bring for them? We'll have to see in their future matches. But moving on, coin flip got our Team Heart and Soul got a free FF victory to coin flip gaming this week. So Team Heart and Soul, or TA Heart and Soul, they are in the playoffs now. So what do we think? Now that they're secured in the playoffs, what do we think they have a shot at winning it all? How do they stand against all the other teams?
Go for it.
I'll open up the floor to anyone who wants to take it up.
Well, so here's kind of my thought is Heart and Soul, they've definitely just been kind of plunging in the standings as of the last few weeks. I got really hyped on them when we saw them in the stream being able to 2-0 predictive gaming Odin. I was kind of all on the hype train after that, but since then they've really not stepped up to the plate nearly as much. And to be honest, obviously it's nice for Heart and Soul to be able to grab this free victory. They're definitely in the playoffs now. They don't have to, they can just sleep tight tonight, not having to worry about what happens in the games whatsoever. But with that being said, I think that it would have benefited Heart and Soul in terms of momentum to be able to just like take a really strong 2-0 victory against a team like CoinFlip Gaming, because we have to remember that this Heart and Soul team, they did lose to Oblivion Esports just a couple weeks ago. I mean, certainly Oblivion, definitely a cut above CoinFlip, but not necessarily one of the top tier teams. So that's going to kind of be a hit to their confidence, losing that match and then just kind of sliding into the playoffs off this FF victory. I feel a little bit afraid for Heart and Soul, just not really having that momentum and seeming like just a little bit tumultuous, really not as consistent as you would want to see from a playoff team. So for me right now, they have a lot to prove.
So yeah, I agree with that. Just to get into FF victory any week. I mean, you go to the next week, you're not playing for a whole week, and then you go back into it, and it's almost like you haven't played in so long that like you have no momentum going in, especially if you're playing a good team next. I mean, like you had to go in there with like some good morale, but if you get an FF, it's kind of just like, well, whatever. I guess we won. Like on to the next one.
Right. Yeah, and like you said, TA Heart and Soul, they did take a loss to Oblivion Esports, and without this momentum from winning or getting a potential win versus Coin Flip, it's got to be a little rough seeing how Lost Chapter just absolutely put on a clinic against Oblivion. That must be a little intimidating for the team as well. So we'll have to see if Heart and Soul maybe have just been in the dojo training away in the mountains on their break and able to retake some of their momentum on their next match. But who knows? We'll have to wait and see for Heart and Soul. Moving on, Goldfish Gaming will take on Predictive Gaming Odin this week, and they must win. What do we think their chances are?
So always kind of Goldfish Gaming. They're famous in this league for taking teams 2-3 games. For me, I don't really think they have a very good chance in this series. I know Predictive Gaming Odin's is just a very competitive team. They're a team that, they're not going to slouch just because they're against a lower competitor, especially on the role that they've been on. I would expect PGO to really go hard, in this series. And I was on the podcast earlier this week, and I believe I predicted 2-0. So I'll pull that through onto the analyst desk as well.
Honestly, I think if I remember correctly, Goldfish was the one that ran the Kiana Talia comp. And honestly, I mean, if they can pull that out twice, like honestly, and like you don't have an answer for that, that is crazy to play against. And if they can do something like that, like another one of those, like where like you're not expecting it coming in, like whatsoever, like you can't draft against it because you don't know it exists. And if they can do that twice, I mean, I think they have a chance. But I mean, I'm definitely gonna favor Odin.
Yeah, we got the spicy picks. You mentioned Talia Kiana, which is interesting. We'll get into it a little bit later, but Kiana getting jungle buffs and Talia getting mid lane buffs.
Right, they can just swap it now.
Yeah, you can potentially just flip it around however way you like. So even more flex potential and more spicy picks for Goldfish. So they might take it to a game 3 once more. We can't necessarily count them out. It's a must-win week for Goldfish Gaming, which means like all the tech is gonna come out. Any of the hidden drafts plans or anything, it's all going to come out. So that'll be definitely a spicy series to watch, especially for the draft. But tonight, Limitless Future, your team Omnific, takes on Lemon Citrus. How you feeling?
We're pretty confident tonight. I mean, especially the fact that we only have to win one game to get in the playoffs is like a good little cushion. But I mean, we're totally expecting to 2-0 them going into the night. We've practiced a lot. We're in 2 different leagues. We've got after Paz left, we got Marshall as our top lane, and we've been working with him a lot. So I think we're pretty ready to go. I mean, I'm personally excited to play Lost Chapter. Like I think that's the game that I'm looking most forward to.
Oh yeah, you want to you're just kind of looking past Lemon Citrus and just looking straight for the
that's my goal right
huh?
Yeah, my goal right now, yeah, is to be a Lost Chapter for sure.
Okay, Elsa, you got any thoughts on the matchup?
I mean, I'm just very excited to have the opportunity to cast this tonight because both of these teams, Omnific already said it, but there's a lot on the line. Limitless, they only have to win one game. I believe that Lemons needs to win at least one game, and then if they win only just one game, I believe they need a little bit of help in order to actually make it to the playoffs. But both these teams definitely kind of they're the favorites to get those lower seeds going into these quarterfinal matchups. So I'm really excited to see it. I definitely anticipated Limitless to win it. That was kind of my prediction. I know last week we had Huffzone on the desk. He talked about how actually in his opinion Limitless was one of the scariest teams that they went against. He talked about how you all were just kind of hard to put a finger on, and he felt like you were a lot better than your record stood. And when we look at Lemon Citrus, their record, they're back to even, but what is a little bit deceiving about it is they have really surged in the second half of the season, but and so in that way they're coming in with a lot of momentum. But on the other hand, when we're kind of looking at their schedule that Lemon Citrus has gone through in order to get here, they beat Coin Flip 2-0 last week, not that big of a deal. They beat Arcanus. I can't remember if it was on an FF or if it was, oh no, I'm sorry. The week before that, Lemons, they got the FF win against Lost Chapter. So, that's free as well. And then the week before that, they 2-1 Oblivion, who, they just got knocked out of the playoffs. So not necessarily, not a playoff team. So they've had 3 consecutive victories, 1 being an FF and 2 being against teams that were not, that are just like not extremely impressive. You have to also think about the fact that another one of their wins was against Arcanist, who just dropped from the league. So right there, that's 3 out of their 4 wins are just it not that big of a deal. And so to be honest, I think that we're being deceived by the schedule a little bit. Like, yeah, it looks like they've had this rise to glory, but maybe it's just like the rise of the easier second half of the schedule for Lemon Citrus. I kind of honestly expect Limitless to put them in their place tonight.
For sure. I appreciate that.
Okay, it seems like we got some Lemon Citrus doubters, which understandably, it's fair. It's fair. So we'll have to see if Lemon Citrus can really show up and prove us all wrong on the desk, or if Limitless is just gonna take them over, like Omnific said. So we'll definitely have to see on that. All right, next up, CCS playoffs begin next week, and with that, we know Predictive Gaming Odin and TA Heart and Soul will be a part of these quarterfinal matches. So, do we think that these 2 teams are a shoo-in for the semis?
So I already touched on it a little bit earlier, but for me, I think I would be surprised to see Predictive Gaming Odin lose their quarterfinal matchup, especially if they're able to get the victory against if PGO gets the victory tonight against Goldfish Gaming in the only other match that's actually happening in the CCS tonight. That means that they'll be cemented as the 3rd seed, and I think that's going to be the key for them. Means that they probably, assuming Limitless wins as well, we'll kind of see. It means that they would be against, I believe, Lemons or Goldfish, depending on how things shake out. Although I don't think they could be against Goldfish, because that would mean they beat them. But either way, I would fully expect them to beat either of those lower teams. Now, if they're against Limitless, I can see it being a little bit closer, especially just by Huffzone's own kind of analysis that he gave. They were able to 2-0 Limitless earlier in the season, but, best of 5s, it's kind of a whole different beast. It gives a lot more room for adaptation, a lot more room for bringing other things out. So I would expect PGO to for sure be showing up in the semifinals. Heart and Soul, however, really not sure. It's kind of a question of which Heart and Soul are we going to get. We have seen them play extremely dominant games, specifically on stream earlier in the season. They had a couple of matches in which they were extremely strong. But with that being said, I already touched on how they've kind of had a fall from grace. They've had a couple series recently that just really didn't go their way, and so it's kind of like which Heart and Soul is going to show up. I think either way, though, it's going to be close. I don't see Heart and Soul as cemented into the semifinals as PGO. They could make it, but not as much of a shoo-in for me.
Omnific, you got any thoughts on those teams?
Yeah, I kind of agree with it. I think that if Heart and Soul shows up with what they are proven that they're capable of, I think that they have a pretty good shot at making it into it. I mean, when we played against them, I mean, they definitely played really well. And if they can play like that, then yeah, I really don't see there being any issue for them making it in.
All right, it seems like we got a lot of predictive gaming Odin fans, especially with Cursive, who's not on the desk right now, but we know that his favorite to win it all was PGO, and we've seen PGO kind of have a rise in this season. Not necessarily starting off as one of the Titans, and even now, you wouldn't necessarily call them on the same level as Lost Chapter and Collective, but they're definitely close. They're getting there, and so I'll be excited to see how they'll do in their playoffs run. And for me, I mean, my personal favorite, sorry Omnific, was TA Heart and Soul. That was my call way back in the middle of the season. So I'm always rooting for TA Heart and Soul to come out fighting. So we'll have to see. It's gonna be exciting.
Yeah, definitely.
And now that we've talked about pretty much everyone else, we gotta talk about the two elephants in the room: Lost Chapter and Collective. So let's start a little bit on Collective, because we already talked a little bit about Lost Chapter. Collective has been a titan of the league, along with Lost Chapter. We haven't necessarily seen these 2 teams face off all that much, and so, I mean, what do you guys think? How do you think they stack up against each other and against the rest of the league? Are they just like a cut above the rest, or is there a massive canyon between the rest?
I mean,
Go ahead, I'm gonna think.
with collective effort, I mean, with them being 8-0 and only losing 3 matches altogether this entire season, I mean, they've obviously proven that like they're capable. Like they're obviously one of the ones that you need to watch out for once you get there. And I think that anyone that's going to be playing against them really needs to be scouting well, and you need to be drafting well to be able to beat them. Because if you go into the game without a plan and you just go in there all willy nilly, like then you're not going to have a fun time. But I think, I mean, like you said, it's amateur play. Like no one's invincible in this stuff. So like if you can come in there with a better plan than them and like execute it and actually be working towards it like the whole week before you play them, I think that anybody could honestly beat them like in the playoff seeds. But if they show up the way that they're showing up and you go in there with nothing, then I mean, yeah, they're probably just going to dominate you.
Yeah, and I think it's really important, Omnific, that you talk about kind of having that game plan going in, because honestly, that's been what has maybe been a little bit missing from collective effort. I know that we've heard a little bit from their opponents, as well as just some of our own analysis, that collective effort, they really do rely on just the individual skill that their players have, which does allow them to kind of, pick a lot of different compositions, not necessarily seeming like they're planned out, but just kind of relying on their individual skill to be able to overcome in games. When they, the one series loss that they had this season did come against, Predictive Gaming Odin, which I have been kind of big upping throughout this whole time, and what we saw is that they came in a little bit sloppy, like when they finally got matched lane for lane a little better, especially against Odin, who has, kind of the similar solo lane talent coming in, specifically thinking about like Whole Grain Man, able to match Philly B into that mid lane. We saw collective effort kind of crumble a little bit. So I'm thinking that collective effort, they have some time now. They had the bye week because of the Arcanist matchup this week, which of course Arcanist dropped from the league. So hopefully they use this time to focus in. Like Omnific said, sometimes it can be kind of a disadvantage to have so much of a break, especially they have the bye too. So it's going to be 2 full weeks that they're not playing at all in CCS. So I would like to see them spend that time to get a little bit more planning in terms of their team compositions. And I think if they're able to do that, I think they will be a very difficult team to beat. Again, not impossible, but difficult. And just to touch really quickly on Lost Chapter, I mean, Niall, you talked about our predictions in the middle of the season. I was on the Lost Chapter bandwagon then, and I'm just going to continue on it now. They haven't actually lost a match in CCS. They have lost individual games, only 2. And they did have 2 FF losses, of course, but, so we don't know what would have happened in those games, especially one of the FFs was against collective effort. So we haven't seen those 2 teams matching up. But I think that Lost Chapter, they've yet to show huge kind of chinks in their armor. And so we don't really know what the best way to game plan against them is. And therefore, Lost Chapter, for me, they're still the team to beat.
Just to speak on my own experiences a little bit here, the importance of a plan. Omnific, you mentioned that, and it's ridiculous how important that is and how underrated it is. Drafting is a skill, and you don't really get that much practice with a skill unless you watch a lot of pro play or you watch people who co-stream. Like, drafting is a pretty hard skill to learn because there's 150 whatever champions in the game, and especially in amateur when anything goes, there's no real meta to strictly hold to like there is in pro play. And I know in my own level of amateur play, once when I was playing on a diamond team at a tournament, we faced a bunch of a lineup of all Plat 4 players, and we came in confident because we were like a D4, D2 average team, somewhere around there. And we came in with no plan. We were just kind of going to wing it. And I remember we picked top lane Malphite, and they picked, last pick, they picked Silas. And our draft just boomed. It just imploded. There was nothing we could do because of a full AP Silas top lane that just free farm versus the Malphite and one-shot our entire enemy team. And they say failure is like the best teacher, and that was traumatizing, let me tell you. So for every single match, regardless of who they are, a plan is definitely needed. Whether you think you're better, whether you think you're worse, draft plans are so crucial because it can just flip a game on its head entirely. Like you said earlier, Omnific, with the Kiana Talia, little tech like that can just absolutely it can make you feel like you're playing a different game. If you're against a combo that you've never played against before, you get really uncomfortable, you start making basic mistakes, and things can get really dicey really quick. So definitely excited to see if any spicy drafts will come out to face Collective and Lost Chapter as well. Any final thoughts on the teams? Omnific, you said you want to take down Lost Chapter. How confident are you in doing that?
I think if we prepare ourselves and we play the best way that we can play, I think it'll be a hell of a game for sure. Especially if it's a best of 5, I think that we definitely stand a chance. I don't think that they would like 3-0 us by any means. So, I mean, I'm definitely excited to see what happens. I'm not gonna say like, oh, we're 100% gonna win. I'm not. I can't be that cocky. But I mean, it's definitely the game I'm looking forward to most.
There we go.
Yeah, and I'll just stress it again, like best of 5 is definitely a different competition than best of 3. It affords you a lot more ability to kind of experiment, to be able to throw out those compositions, that are a little bit techy, like you said, have these tricky things. Plus the fact, like some of these teams that are towards the top, but not necessarily the very top teams, might have things saved in the bank that they haven't brought out in the regular season yet, that they've been saving for these kind of bigger competitions, or maybe again even saving for a situation where you win a game 1 and you can afford to lose a game 2 because and try out something that's a little bit different. So I think that's gonna really change the playing field, and it might surprise us a little bit which teams end up performing better under those circumstances.
And I mean, just to segue into it, it's patch day, and so best of 5s. There's definitely going to be an extreme amount of experimentation. This is the biggest patch we've seen all year. It's part 1 of the World's Patch 11.18, aka World's Patch A, and there's a crazy amount of things that have been changed in the meta. So these different drafts are definitely going to be experimented with, and I mean, I'm just ready to start talking about it already. I mean, we've said it earlier. The Kiana, she's kind of been gutted from mid lane. What they ended up doing was they removed her EQ combo where it auto aims for you, and before, if the enemy flashed or dashed away while you were EQing them, the Q would just auto target as to where their dash or flash would land, and it would always hit no matter what. EQ is guaranteed. But now it will always hit from before where they dash or from before where they flash. So now if you have a dash, you can guaranteed dodge EQ on Kiana. And that's really big. That's a massive hit to Kiana. She's already an extremely mechanically challenging champion. And so while she's not going to have a lot of mid lane presence anymore, I predict, she's gotten buffs to her jungle clear, and from experimentation, I know the first jungle clear is not that great. It's kind of slow, but you have insane dueling power in the jungle, and once you get a Dirk, your jungle clear starts becoming real quick, and you just start matching up with every other jungler. So I'm interested to see if anyone in CCS will whip out the Kiana. Do we know of any Kiana players thus far that might be able to whip it out?
Not personally, no.
Yeah, I don't think so. We definitely haven't seen it on the stream at least. So, but we know that, these players are at a level where they are, Kiana, it was only so long ago that Kiana was really prevalent in the meta, especially in the mid lane, also in the jungle, to be fair, to some extent. So I would not be surprised if players, pull that one out. And to speak to what some of what you said, Niall, maybe the first jungle clear isn't necessarily that strong, but for me, Kiana has always been like so much about like her ultimate, I believe Supreme Display of Talent, is that what it's called? Like that is an ability that is absolutely game changing in fights, and being able to bring that much power skirmishing in the jungle is huge. And to speak again to what you said, Niall, she does so well already at fighting kind of in those jungle corridors when you can just smash everyone up against the wall, even in some kind of like area around the Dragon Pit or around the Rift Herald. So at that about level 6 mark, that's when Kiana can make that huge impact, and especially that's huge in the kind of team play situation where you can rely on your teammates to follow up on an ultimate of that magnitude. So I really hope that we see some people pull it out, if not today, maybe in the playoffs.
Yeah, Kiana's definitely an interesting pick. I'm very excited. Similar note, Zed having a 308 jungle clear now with Smite available. He'll be coming into Scuttles early and level 4 and with Smite. So any jungler coming in to verse him on a Scuttle is going to die. I mean, he's got the Smite healing. He can steal away this crab, but he doesn't need to steal it away because he'll be there first. He's got an escape if things go south. Zed might be a pretty nuts jungler. I don't think very many jungle players will pick him up because I doubt any jungle player like in the current meta has ever played Zed. So we'll have to see. Maybe some Kayn and Evelynn players will pick him up, But Zed is another one of those champions, and he's definitely still good in the mid lane. Maybe not. Kiana might not be as good as him, so the Zed flex pick might be actually a spicy thing that will also be able to be picked. You guys have, and on a similar note, have you guys seen any Zed players in the league?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I haven't seen these players, but that was gonna be the one I wanted to talk about, was because as an AD carry, that's terrifying. Like having a Zed jungler, like that is just crazy. Because yeah, I had seen that his clear speed was like insane. He's gonna beat like almost literally anyone to the scuttle crab, and I mean just the fact that like he can do that fast, and like I mean like you said, you can't really 1v1 him, like especially at like level 4, like unless you're I mean like maybe like some champions like maybe J4 like in the beginning, but I don't see like a place where like after you hit level 6, I mean you're just gonna take over the map. Like I mean he doesn't have to do much to hit his ult. Like he doesn't have to do much to get into the lane. He can just shadow right in. Like he can come from a million different angles. I think to me personally that's gonna be the scariest one.
Yeah, and
Zed,
I mean,
it's just
I
so
guess
scary.
Yeah, I guess I didn't, I haven't even thought about it that much from the position of like AD carry, but absolutely, like already it's annoying enough. Like when you're against a Zed mid lane, they hit level 6, and basically if they hit, the double shuriken or whatever, they kind of just get like the free execute on you as a, as an AD carry champion, and now he has nowhere better to be than just like in your lane. He doesn't even have a lane of his own, so that's definitely something that's annoying. And I mean, to be honest, I'm excited, and I think that that's the reason why Riot kind of wanted to bring this champion back into the meta. He's very exciting. There's a reason that probably the most famous LOL clip of all time includes Faker with the outplay on Zed. Like he has a lot of room for just being able to make those outplays, being able to perform those assassinations, and so just as a viewer of the game, I'm excited to see it come back in.
And something I didn't even think about, the outplay potential. I mean, meta junglers right now, right? We think of things like the Jarvan, right? Zed ult can dodge the Cataclysm. Things like, I mean, Kayn to an extent. Zed can dodge the knockup and prevent his ult from going off. There's like a lot of things that, I mean, junglers are usually have like a good CC spell to set up ganks, obviously, and Zed can kind of just nullify that in a 1v1. So we'll have to see how he ends up panning out. But speaking of just like mid laners and junglers and all that flex potential, Talia mid. I know there's a lot of fans of Talia mid that just hide in their cove and hope it works and try and make it work, and they struggle a lot. But Talia mid just got a massive buff. The warped ground, smaller on the ground now, and also instead of lasting for 45 seconds, it now lasts for 25 seconds. So what that means is Talia can cast more of the full Qs, which throw 5 rocks rather than 1, more in the lane and more often because the warped ground will go away. So Talia mid, I honestly don't know if she'll be playable or not because we haven't seen Talia in so long. It's gonna be really exciting though because her wall is kind of like that. It's kind of have that level of impact as Twisted Fate. Maybe you could argue even more, and especially in like constructed competitive play, Talia is kind of a menace. And if teams can manage to flex her mid jungle, that's just insane potential.
Absolutely. And, I totally agree with what you said, Niall, that with that team play ability, she's very, very strong. Obviously, we've seen I've seen at least my fair share of times where Talia screws over her own team by putting the wall in a position where teammates can't get over that. I've even seen that in pro play. So, gotta watch out for that one as well. But I think she does kind of fit pretty well into the meta of these champions that are able to kind of push the wave out and then are good roamers. We see that pretty well with things like the LeBlanc, even to the Rise to some extent, just like champions that can push the wave out and then they can go elsewhere, and that's when they're at their scariest. And we know Talia with her passive too is able to ride those walls and get into the side lanes really quickly. So if only because of that, and her wave clear obviously is buffed with that worked ground change, being able to get those full Qs over and over again and just kind of take out the whole wave. Those Talia mains know how to do that really, really well. And so I would anticipate in team play starting to see that Talia more. Again, not really sure in solo queue, about her kind of the way she stacks up 1v1 against some of the other meta mid laners right now. But I think we'll see her in competitive.
Yep, for sure. Next up on our list of just exciting meta picks, we've got things that have been changed this pack. Just keep talking about mid lane. AP Kog'Maw. Pretty rare pick, to be honest. I've played it. I know it's a heck of a lot of fun. At level 16, you just basically become a global sniper, and no one can stop you because you're 8 screens away, and you just deal insane damage. And AP Cog getting a plus 20% AP ratio on the E, so now the E has a 70% AP ratio, pretty large, and that allows you to one-shot the back minions, the caster minions with your E, which you weren't able to do before. So now Kog'Maw can just ER the wave and get rid of all 6 minions right away at around, I think, level 7 or 8, and that's huge. Breaking these wave clear thresholds for a lot of the different champions is definitely like one of the massive buffs that a lot of people sleep on because they're not even aware of it. So now that Kog'Maw can just shotgun waves and leave, we might see him a lot more in solo queue and potentially as a counter pick, kind of like an artillery mage to the different control mages. I don't really know where AP Kog'Maw fits in team comps, but it's definitely something that you could pick. Omnific, I know you play a lot of bot lane. Are you experienced with Kog'Maw? What do you think? Do you think his AP variant's viable?
Back in I just remember back. I mean, maybe it was like season 3 or something like that. I remember AP Kog'Maw being like very popular, and if it's gonna be anything like that, and we can get a meta around that, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, if he can just be standing all the way in the back and just using his R and like taking out like the AD carrier, like you said, a control mage, like from so far away that you can't even touch him. And I mean, you can do it effectively. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be a viable pick. I think the lane up until, like you said, level 7-ish might be kind of hard because, I mean, if you're going up against like a Syndra or something like that, that just kind of outranges you, like with a stun on top of that. I mean, you don't have a lot of movement speed, which is kind of the worst part of him, in my personal opinion. He's very immobile. But I mean, once you get to that point and you do scale, I think, yeah, I mean, I would be excited to see him. I'd like to see. If he does become a pick, I could play in the bot lane as like Cassiopeia or like a Seraphine, and you can play just AP Cog on the bot if you get an AD mid laner. I would love to pick that up.
I mean, yeah, it seems like you can just flex it. Pick a
Yeah,
Kog'Maw,
you can. Yeah,
your team comp ends up being full AD, doesn't matter. Just pick up a Seraphs on your way to bot lane and you'll be good.
right, exactly.
Yeah, and it's definitely something, Omnific already said it, but I think there are definitely some just like absolute no-no matchups when you are playing AP Kog'Maw in the mid lane. Like Syndra is a good example that you already gave. I think LeBlanc is another one that comes to mind that would probably be like absolutely horrifying until you do get some of that wave clear and then you're able to kind of clear the wave and step back. But I mean, I'm interested if you can get some of those picks banned out, or if another team is gonna blind pick a mid laner that Kog'Maw does well into. I think that would be really I think that's something that's really exciting to see. I know some people have really strong opinions on poke metas, but I actually think the poke meta is a pretty interesting one. I know we already have the lethality Varus, like obviously really cemented into the meta. So I wonder if, it wouldn't be a strong team composition to add something else to it like that Kog'Maw later on between the arrows shooting out from Varus as well as the ultimates from Kog'Maw. It could get really, annoying to deal with. I think the problem with that is there are also in this meta a lot of different champions that are so good at diving onto the backline. Like, I can only imagine how horrible it would be to play that carry duo against something like a Jarvan, like, and you're just getting stuck in the Cataclysm, and like, what can you do? You're just pretty much screwed if you don't have Flash. But it's something that's really fun, like Omnific said. I remember when it was in the meta back in the past, very different times then. I think now, it is a lot more acceptable to play things like that in the bot lane, so maybe it has a better spot there. Not really sure.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Varus. That's something that's getting nerfed this patch. Attack speed from the passive going down until about level 13, and also losing 2 base AD. So it's possible that we see these team comps that used to run Varus, they just switch it out for Kog'Maw and see how it works. I could definitely see the poke being swapped around, and it'd definitely be an interesting thing to consider. I'm not sure if many teams will be able to willing to dive in and do that, but we'll have to see. But let's just keep going down the list here. Amumu was given 2 charges on the queue, not this patch, but last patch. And it's been a little slept on, but Amumu's support is actually ridiculously strong. It's an engaged support that has damage resist on the E and insane amounts of CC. The ultimate is just Leona ult, but on steroids pretty much. And it's a really viable pick. At one point last week, I know it had a 63% win rate in Masters, just completely flying under the radar, and it's actually insane. So I'm very surprised that Amumu hasn't been noticed more yet, because I've definitely seen it in my solo queue, and it's definitely been really hard to play against, because once you're against an Amumu, there's just a giant zone that you cannot cross if he's in a team fight. If he bandage toss to your tank, and now he can reach your ADC right after with an ultimate, it's honestly ridiculous. I don't know if you guys have seen any Amumu support, but it's definitely on the rise.
I know Omnific has.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say, I don't remember if it was in CCS or not, but I feel like it was the
It
first
was.
week of CCS. Snow went on Mumu support, and it was just like we just put on a clinic. It was ridiculous. Like, especially because if you don't know what's coming and you like don't genuinely like understand like what the 2Q bandages can do, like, and then it happens and you're like, oh shit, like that's too late, man. Like, and then like at that point, like it's like how do you play against it, especially in the bot lane? Like if you pick like an enchanter, like on top of like an enchanter plus like I don't know like Vayne or something like that, and like you just can get on top of them and keep them locked down the entire time. Like you just can't play against it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, just
that's
more
just
of my traumatic experiences. I just want to quickly
Yeah.
mention, like, I was playing solo queue one day, didn't know it was patch day. This Amumu flash Qs onto me, level 3, like from a jungle bush while I'm playing mid. I'm like, what is he doing? What is he gonna do after he lands bandage toss? So I'm like, okay. And then I flash away, and then he throws another bandage toss, and I'm like, oh my god. And so that was
Yep.
quite the jump scare, and I could definitely see that happening a lot to people because Amumu's not picked that much. So I could definitely see a lot of people just forgetting that he has 2 Q charges, especially since he's been this way for so long.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean it's definitely a monster pick. It really is. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good.
No, you're good.
So yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say, I think maybe CCS is a little ahead of the meta on here. Either that or Amumu is just kind of something that's fairly easy to play as well, because as Omnific already mentioned, Snow Life did pull that out in the support role already for Limitless. I think the game that comes to mind that y'all played it, I was not casting, but I was watching, and I think y'all were against an Ashe support also, so it was like
Yep.
pretty much like the worst possible matchup.
Yeah.
Like with Amumu, like this, like it was like, what can you do? Like you can't even lane into this basically. So definitely really strong in the support role just with the sheer amount of CC that it's able to bring. But we've also actually seen it a lot coming in the jungle. Yesterday Oblivion, they weren't able to win, but they did pull it out in the jungle. We've seen it in some other matches as well. Again, not a very hard champion to execute, and just benefits team play so well with the big Amumu ultimates. So I would anticipate it just kind of being a staple of the meta at this elo, if not even in pro play. We'll see, once World starts, if people are willing to, pull that out. But it's definitely something that's really difficult to deal with and doesn't really need that many resources in order to be effective. Just because if you can land those bandage tosses in your ultimate, you don't really need that much damage to just set up your teammates for success.
Yep. And you got that inherent tankiness from the E passive, taking less physical damage per hit. So that's really big in the bot lane as well. And hey, maybe we're gonna be responsible for all the Amumus that are gonna get picked in CCS now. We'll have to see. I mean, maybe we'll even see it tonight. Who knows? But just keep moving down the list here. Major things to mention. Mundo Top. Big thing about him this patch is they changed his R from healing him over time to bonus health instantly and healing him over time, and that bonus health cannot be grievous wounds. So one of his big counters, grievous, has been nerfed a little bit, and he's definitely a lot stronger. I've seen him a lot in solo queue, really hard to gank because of that cask, his passive that gives him the CC resist. So he's been definitely a powerhouse pick in the top lane, and I've always already seen a lot of Mundo before the buffs, but now he's just really, really strong, and no Bramble Vest or anything could stop him now. So very interested to see if we'll see a lot more Mundo as well. Have you guys seen any Mundo recently as well?
I've not seen it this patch, honestly. I haven't played it all today. Like since the patch, I didn't really play any of the PBE. So I mean, I've read the changes, and I think like the bonus health, like going instantly, and you can't grievous wounds it. I mean, I think honestly, like. He's gonna be really hard to deal with. I mean, like in the top lane, like I mean, if you pick a pick that's like good into him, but like once he makes it into team fights and he can just like run through you guys, like I mean, I just don't know how you really stop that at that point.
Yeah, Mundo can kind of become his own solo win con at this point. With he used to be able to get countered by Grievous, but now that's kind of out the window. So we'll have to see. Also,
Yeah,
have you seen any?
yeah, I mean, we saw it even, I mean, not that, again, this patch I as well have not, played, but I was already seeing a ton of it, and we saw it last night from Kevin Chen of Lost Chapter. It's been a staple for him throughout the season, and, to me, this was kind of out of left field of Riot being like, with Mundo in particular being like, Grievous Wounds is out of control. I'm like, Mundo is already like he's in an okay spot. I mean, especially if you consider that like before the Mundo rework, like this was pretty much kind of like a dead champion. So like they give him the rework where I feel like he got a lot stronger, especially with that like immunity to CC with that shield that he has. And we already kind of touched on it, but he has such a strong ability to scale, and it gets to that point where if Mundo is able to get on top of your carries later in the game, you pretty much, I feel like, have to have a full damage build, like all 6 items, in order to be able to, you know, rip through him. And even then, if he's just able to sit on top of you for the entire time, he has kind of a ridiculous amount of damage for being able to go full tank. So I think that we will see a lot more Mundo, because the other thing about Mundo is he's a fairly safe blind pick as well, you know, unless you can kind of try to take some kind of like higher damage top laner in the early game to try to, you know, throw down with him and try to push him out of lane. But even then, like eventually either way, he's going to outscale you, and then he's just gonna like run all over you. I know Jace is already, I'm pretty sure, gonna gets nerfed in this next patch, but like that's one that comes to mind. It's like, okay, that early game is maybe bad for Mundo, but like eventually he's just not going to care at all about Jace's damage and just, you know, cut him down. So I'll be interested to see if that's something that kind of might be more of a staple ban, if it becomes popular.
For sure. And it feels like Mundo kind of demands a tank shredder from the enemy team, something like a Vayne or a Cassio or something when it gets picked. But we are running a little bit low on time, so we're just going to rapid fire these meta, just things to note in the meta. Soraka might be a little slept on, was already pretty strong. Now her ult cleanses grievous wounds before casting it, so that's really big. Her heal's always going to be massive, especially with the Moonstone and the things like the Redemption, adding the healing and shield power. She's going to be a very strong pick. Zoe, getting a couple seconds off of her E, one of her most crucial abilities. She was in a pretty good spot at the moment, but now she's ridiculously strong, so any Zoe players should definitely be playing her as of right now. Fizz got some reworked as well. He basically got changed to more of a sustained damage fighter, losing some damage on R and adding some to W, so we might see some Bruiser Fizz as well. Echo Jungle still as prominent as ever since the buffs. And Predator just got changed as well, the runes. And that will definitely be interesting because not a lot of people are used to playing with Predator, and I bet a lot of people won't pick it up, but it can definitely be picked up once more on like Galio and things like that to just run around the map, maybe even the Talia. Any final thoughts that you guys have on the meta or CCS in general?
I don't think so. No, I mean we hit a lot of points today.
Yeah, absolutely. My only thought is just I'm really excited for the game tonight. Good luck to you, Omnific. Good luck to Limitless and to Lemons as well. And I'm excited for it. You know, it's going to be in just a few minutes, so make sure that you stick around after the analyst desk for it.
Yep, like Elsa said, we're going to be wrapping it up here, and thank you all for tuning in. And make sure to not go anywhere. We got the match coming up, Limitless. Omnific here, one of the stars of the show. We'll see him on the Rift. So
Hey,
stick around, guys.
I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Hey, no problem.
Too long. is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Classic Championship Series for some Week 9 action between Lemon Citrus and Limitless Future. My name is Raj Hans. I'm joined by Elsa the Queen. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm excited. Week 9 of the CCS. This is our last chance to see, a couple of these teams. Potentially, one of these teams could be going home after tonight. So glad to be with you, Raj Chains.
Yeah, it should be a good one indeed, as this is number 5 taking on number 6. Both of these squads sitting at 4-4, and we are flying through these bans here. Lemon Citrus going to ban out the Seraphine, Victor, and Aatrox. Limitless Future going for Talia and Ari. That last ban should be coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked on the analyst desk before this about, Talia. That one kind of catches my eye the most because this is a champion that has been out of the meta for quite some time, but is definitely back in after this, newest round of buffs that it had, coming back into the mid lane. And it's just something that Limitless Future, they're probably not prepared to deal with after having, not been against it for so long. So I definitely respect that ban. Also, the Jarvan ban from Limitless Future. We have been huge on Jarvan here in the CCS, especially as just kind of this powerhouse first pick jungler. Definitely nice to be able to take that safe first pick away, but Lemon Citrus, they've got a different first pick in mind.
Jinx will be the first pick of choice for Lemon Citrus. Jinx did get some, I believe it was mana buffs on her Rockets early game, so a little more laning power in that pick. And then Amumu instantly locked in for Limitless Future. I do want to go back to the point you made about Talia here, as the mid laner for Lemon Citrus is named Tali One Trick. So, well, not One Trick, but main. So, definitely throwing some respect their way with that ban. And the AD carry choice for Limitless Future is going to be the Misfortune.
Yeah, and so, all kind of talking about this this patch. This has been such a big deal already in this draft, with the Jinx definitely received buffs. Amumu in the last patch received those changes to his Q. And then I know so did Misfortune, gained multiple waves onto, more waves under her ultimate. So, making that a lot stronger. And already I really like what Limitless Future has been able to put together here between the Amumu and the Misfortune. Obviously, Amumu definitely can be a pick that goes to the jungle, but we have seen Snow Life already take it into the support role. I remember seeing you cast that one, actually, Ride Chains. But the Braum, it is a great answer into the Misfortune, being able to block that bullet time ultimate.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we've seen Snow Life on Mumu, and Snow Life's a menace on this champion, so we'll see. Still definitely a flex pick opportunity there, but I kind of do expect it to go in the jungle here. Last pick for this first half of the pick phase is going to be Trundle for Limitless Future. Another champ who is pretty strong. Did get nerfed a bit on this new patch, but I think the champ is still pretty good.
Yeah, and I especially like the Trundle when you're able to take it into already, the Zac, which is going to be a big tank champion for Lemon Citrus. The Trundle is all that much stronger when you can drop the Subjugate onto one of those tank champions. If Lemon Citrus didn't have that, Trundle definitely quite a bit weaker, but I'll be interested to see whether or not this Trundle, it's another flex pick. It could go to the jungle, it could go to the top lane, or even support. We've seen it kind of all across the board, so we'll see where Limitless decides to put this Trundle as we kind of come into the second phase of bans here.
Yeah, second phase of the bans coming through. TF and Gangplank off the table for Limitless Future, and Lemon Citrus going to take away Diana and Orianna. You can kind of see Lemon Citrus has picked their bot and jungle, so no surprise that Limitless is going to ban some solo laners away. Blind pick coming through for Limitless is looks like it's going into the mid lane. Right now, LeBlanc is the hover. Not a bad blind pick. Yeah, relatively safe.
We saw LeBlanc being blind picked yesterday by Lost Chapter. Definitely strong, but they're going to pivot away from it. They're going to go to the Cassiopeia. And that one's definitely, for me, a lot riskier of a blind pick. I know sometimes it can get a little bit bullied around, especially in the early game. And as Lemon Citrus decides to take the Zoe into it, again, these teams, they are not behind on these patch notes. Zoe, I know Niall on the analyst desk, he's a Zoe one trick and all the way up in Masters. Elo, and he was just absolutely ecstatic about these Zoe changes, getting that 4-second cooldown reduction on the bubble. And certainly Cassiopeia and MF, to be fair, these are champions that if they get caught out by that bubble, they're just going to be deleted. And with a set to follow it up, that's a lot of pick potential coming out on the side of Lemon Citrus.
Yeah, I am liking this composition that Lemon Citrus has here. You have a lot of frontline. You have the ability to dive with the set and the showstopper into the back. And on the other side, you have a Trundle who, is going to be relatively tanky, have some health to his name. So if Set can get that showstopper and hit multiple members in the backline of Limitless Future, could be a pretty solid pick. And then rounding out, the counter pick in the top lane goes over to Limitless Future, and the Mordekaiser is going to be their top laner of choice.
Yeah, and so Mordekaiser, kind of this lane kingdom type champion, definitely has pretty strong matchups into a lot of the meta top laners right now. This time it's going against Set, which I think, pretty good matchup for the Mordekaiser. I will say, coming out of, looking at this draft, I definitely do prefer overall the Lemon Citrus draft here. I think it was interesting that they were willing to take this Jinx first pick from Lemon Citrus. Really risky for me. Not something that I really liked coming out initially, although with the Jarvan ban, we know that can be kind of one of the most awful things for Jinx to play against, so a little safer with that. I would have almost liked Limitless Future to come out with a little bit more of a divey composition to get on top of this Jinx, but instead, not necessarily going to go for that, and they did pick a lot of peel up for this Jinx. So honestly, out of these two team compositions, I'm really liking the Lemon Citrus one. They have a lot of skill shots that they have to land between this Zoe and also kind of with that elastic slingshot from the Zac, but if they are able to make those things happen, I think that Lemon Citrus, they're who I would actually kind of favor coming out of this draft phase.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you as well. I think Lemon Citrus has a very easy, team fight to execute. I think Zac is going to be really good ganking in this early game. Misfortune has, a champion that doesn't have any mobility besides the movement speed from her passive. Cassiopeia, who doesn't have any mobility at all besides the flash. So I think Zac is going to have a really easy time ganking these lanes, and I would imagine we're getting a Mumu support and Trundle in the jungle, but either way, I think it's Lemon Citrus has a nice comp. I like it a lot.
Yeah, and there are strengths to the Limitless Future composition as well. Namely, for me, they do have a lot of ability to lock people down for that bullet time ultimate for Misfortune to be able to land multiple waves onto some of these carries. So if you can get the Amumu able to get in and get his ultimate onto multiple members, if you can get that Cassiopeia stun off right away, that does allow for Misfortune to be able to do a lot of damage. But with that being said, I mentioned it right away, but the Braum is just such a hard counter to this Misfortune. So if Braum is expressive on this, Braum is able to be in the right place at the right time and put up his big shield, that really shuts down a large amount of the damage that comes out from Limitless Future. On top of that, I have a little bit of a concern about the range that Limitless Future is able to bring from their composition. They do have two range carries between the Misfortune and the Cassiopeia, but neither of them, both of them I think are going to have kind of a hard time getting on this Jinx and the Zoe, especially as the game goes on, as the Jinx does gain that range onto her rockets. Yeah,
and just to add on to that, the poke from Lemon Citrus is, it's in their favor as well. You have Zoe, who is a very effective poke, can hit you from, screens away. And then Jinx, who, has Zap, has rockets. You have a lot of opportunities to poke out. So, it's only a matter of time. And, going back to the point of Limitless Future is not that mobile, so it won't be that hard, I don't think, for Lemon Citrus to actually, poke out, gain control over areas, especially fighting on objectives, and kind of just brute force their way in with their big meatballs in the front line.
Yeah, and I'm just really excited that we get to see Snow Life on this Amumu pick again. Last time we did see it, he was going against an Ashe support. This time he's going against a Braum. So obviously a much better matchup the Braum is into the Amumu. But still, with that said, the Jinx is going to be, Sex Goddess on this Jinx is going to have to play really safe, so easy to catch out that immobile carry. So I'm excited to see what he can do on this pick.
Yes, it should be interesting for sure, as we are now going to get into this spectator competitive integrity delay here. And, what do you think about this mid lane matchup, just overall, Zoe versus the Cassiopeia?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if Zoe can get through the early game, I think Cassiopeia then is going to spend a lot of her time just trying to avoid these bubbles from Zoe, and they're going to be on such a short cooldown, especially as the Zoe is able to pick up that cooldown reduction, you know, those extra stats for herself, and I'm a little afraid that Fonzo on this Cassiopeia is going to be, you know, just feeling really afraid throughout most of this game, just trying to, you know, avoid those, because if you do get popped by one of those Zoe bubbles, half of your HP is gone in a second.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's gonna be hard for Cassiopeia to play this game for sure. And throw on top of that the crazy Zac angles that you can gank from. So I'm putting a lot of my eyes on Zygon here, on this Zac, especially in the early game, because I want to see this player, you know, get around the map, have a lot of successful ganks, and, you know, sort of impart their will in this early game. You're not going to really be able to win the 1v1 against Trundle because Trundle's a really strong duelist, but, you know, if you can gank weaks, you can gank opposite side, you can just get the ganks first, then it's going to be very effective, and, you know, it'll set Lemon Citrus up for a pretty, you know, easy win, I'd say, moving into the later stages. But we are going to take a short break now just to get over this spectator delay. So get some water, do what you got to do, but be back here in a minute or two, just because we're going to be onto the Rift for Game 1 between Lemon Citrus and Limitless Future. Are on to the Rift for game number 1 between Lemon Citrus and Limitless Future. For Lemon Citrus in the top lane, Bad Vibes on the set, BDN Zygon on Zac in the jungle, Tally on Zoe in the mid lane, and Sex Goddess and Expressive on Jinx and Braum in the bottom lane.
Yeah, and for Limitless Future on the red side, we got Martial Arts for Y taking up the Mordekaiser in the top lane, Myth Jones playing the Trundle in the jungle, Fonzo on the Cassiopeia in the mid lane, and then we have Misfortune and Amumu in the bot lane. That's Omnific and Snowlife for Limitless Future.
Early ward coming out here by Zygon, gonna be swept out by Myth Jones, get some solo laners, a little extra XP. That's what we like to see. for sure there. It's going to get the Mordekaiser a little bit of an advantage in the lane, as well as Cassiopeia. And I think they might, they are going to need it, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to point out, first of all, before we have any action, that I don't know when the spectator will go back onto Snow Life, but he's got a sweet skin on the Amumu. I can't tell if it's a chroma or what, but I'm loving that one. So fun to see that coming out. And, something that I was thinking about, Rychains was, mentioning that, the Zac, he has such creative gank pathing. And I've mentioned it on the stream before when Zac came out, but this is a champion that when the Zac is played, you have to be prepared to ward in kind of a different way than you normally would. Because Zac can hit you, once he gets some points into this E, he can definitely hit you from multiple screens away. Now, with that being said, I know Myth Jones is someone that we've actually seen in the past take up the Zac on this stream, so hopefully because Limitless has familiar with playing this champion, they will also be, okay with playing against it, knowing that you do have to just play really, really passively when you don't know where that Zac is.
Ooh, Snow Life already looking for some early aggression onto Sex Goddess. Second bandage shot is going to go in here, but now might be in trouble, especially taken to about under half HP. Snow Life, the same. For the time being, both of these bot laners trading back and forth. Around half HP for both of them, but the early level 2 comes through for Lemon Citrus. The traps come out. Snow Life has to flash away to safety. Myth Jones is in this bottom side, though, so Limitless future feels okay. Sex Goddess walking really far forward, but Snow Life throws the bandage toss into a minion. That's a bit unlucky, but the second charge.
Yeah, and I wonder if they might call Myth Jones here in a second. I'm not sure. Oh, as he hits another minion, Snow Life. But I'm not sure if, Lemon Citrus, they should know that the Trundle is going to be over onto this side of the map, but there is that Tribush. And here he comes.
Pillar is going to burn out an early heal from Sex Gods, but the traps are going to come through and root up Myth Jones. Some damage traded back there onto the Trundle. As now both of these junglers have made their way into this bottom side of the map, but the bottom Scuttle Crab should go over early to Limitless Future. Fighting in the mid lane here as the exhaust comes through. Drowsy will get cleansed away by Fonzo, so that early summoner is gone. I do want to mention that the exhaust was picked up by a Zoe Bubble, so not actually that Ignite summoner spell that was taken.
Yeah, and this is part of what makes Zoe just absolutely so annoying to play against is, she picks up these free summoner spells on the ground, and then Fonzo ending up having to trade, his actual cleanse.
Oh, wait a minute. Into the mid lane we go here as the Sleepy Trouble Bubble is going to find its mark onto Myth Jones, and a lot of damage goes back onto Tally. Now, sitting at about, 1/4 HP from that gank. That's going to feel really, really nice, especially for Fonzo and this Cassiopeia, who, might have felt a little pressure in this early game.
Yeah, and so in the top lane as well, we'll see if we might see another gank from Myth Jones here coming out. Looks like maybe he is coming up here.
There is no way. Myth Jones. Early flash from Bad Vibes. And I cannot believe that just worked. He just walked across the map, just through the river, straight up the map, and got one flash, but still.
Yeah, and I like that we've seen Zygon on this Zac, just kind of knowing his place, even though he is going to get double scuttled here. He does just kind of recognize that that's going to happen, and instead of trying to contest for this and just kind of wasting time, he doesn't skip a beat on that. So he will be sitting, just about even in farm against this Trundle. And, something that is nice about Zac, even when you fall behind a little bit on this champion, it's all about just getting your levels. Having that, the gold isn't necessarily as important for the Zac to pick up, so that's okay. He can take a little bit of an early disadvantage against this Trundle as long as he doesn't give up any kind of kills like that early. He's looking to get kind of that level 4 or 5 to be able to make something happen.
Ooh, another fight into this bottom lane. Here's the bandage tosses are going to go onto Expressive. Ignite taking down will force the flash out from both of the Lemon Citrus bot laners. And Ignite, two for 2 summoners, but both flashes for Lemon Citrus bot lane.
Yeah, and now with these flash being expended from both AD carries, I would expect both Sex Goddess and Omnific to have just kind of a target on their back. Both of these junglers do really well against the immobile carries with the Elastic Slingshot from Zac and then the Pillar from the Trundle. So we'll see if they are able to make their way down here. Looks like it is going to be a pretty big wave coming into the turret, possibly a dive opportunity, but it doesn't look like Myth Jones is going to be there quite in time, as Zygon looks like he wanted to make something happen in the mid lane.
Yeah, maybe a 2v2 in this bottom side river here. Snowlife is threatening around the back of this tower. Fonzo is about half HP still. Snowlife going in. Traps are going to block away, and now Zac is in the area. Stun's going to tip to Elastic Slingshot's going to find the knockups, and the first blood will go over. Expressive taking really low, will go down. Zygon having to flash away, but the flash follows from Myth Jones. The cells are divided right now as Miss Fortune makes it rain. Tries to find the damage onto this Elastic, or the Zac, but oh my gosh, the double up from Miss Fortune finds 2 kills, and Sex Goddess goes down as well, and on the top side, a solo kill for martial arts.
And just not even talking about what happened in the top lane, that was absolutely sick coming out from Omnific, being able to use that Q on Miss Fortune to not only finish off the Zac passive, but also being able to take out Jinx. And Sex Goddess, honestly, you just got to be positioning a little bit better in that situation. He was already so low, yeah, probably not going to be able to pick up any additional kills there. So a little bit sloppy from the Jinx, but just absolutely incredible being able to take advantage of that by the Miss Fortune play from Omnific.
Yeah, that was really nice. I kind of was, I was shocked myself at just how that happened, but either way, you know, Omnific now sitting 2-0-1 on this Miss Fortune, has the Dirk and the Vamp Scepter. I don't really know what that, Eclipse.
Yep.
Yeah, Eclipse. So, gonna be the Eclipse angle going through for Omnific here. The pressy attack is going to be doing a lot of damage, and you don't really want to give Miss Fortune these kills in the early game because she will make you pay.
For sure, and we already know that with the Sex Goddess on the Jinx, it was going to be difficult. It already becomes difficult just because obviously Jinx needing a lot more items in order to sort of come online, but especially with these 2 early kills going on to Omnific, hopefully they'll be able to take advantage of that lead. That we already do see the level 6 coming through from the Miss Fortune, and once the Amumu hits level 6 as well, that's just so much power coming out from those 2 ultimates, so I would expect some sort of
gank into the mid lane here. The Elastic Slingshot's gonna go wide. Fonzo gonna use that Cassiopeia ultimate, and one gets done. Tally has to run for the hills, but the Fangs are biting her in the back. Has to flash away to safety. Goes back in, looks for the Paddle Star, but not gonna find anything here. And now Myth Jones in the area will get put to sleep for the time being. Level 6 is coming through for everyone across the map right now, except for Expressive. So I expect to see some explosive plays in the near future. We already saw Fonzo try to make something happen mid lane, but everyone on Lemon Citrus is still alive for the time being. You can see now collapsing into this bottom side river to get the early dragon, and it's going to be an infernal for themselves.
And we talked about during the draft how as this game goes on, Lemon Citrus is going to have such a big range advantage, and because of that, it's been so critical for Limitless Future to be able to, you know, take some sort of advantage.
Hold on, we're getting another fight here in the bot lane here as the bandage toss comes through. Bullet time over the top will get canceled out, but not soon enough as Omnific goes on a killing spree. Zygon missing the Elastic Slingshot again, but Myth Jones is back. Pillar knocks up Zygon with a few more autos. Yes, the Subjugate will find the last hit there, and 1-6 in favor of Limitless Future, and they're looking angry in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, and that's just a little bit greedy from Zygon, to be completely honest. On this Zac pick, you're not going to have enough damage to be able to finish off Snowlife or Omnific, to be honest. So I'm just really not sure why he Elastic Slingshotted himself in there. Even if Myth Jones hadn't been there, I think the best that really happens if you're the Zac in that situation is you survive. So, you know, really not the best decision making there. And, you know, we haven't even gotten a chance really to talk about the top lane yet because of how exciting what was going on in the bot lane. lane was. But, you know, as you mentioned, Chain's martial arts for Y already picking up that solo kill as the Mordekaiser. He's about 20 CS up, and, you know, he does have about a 900 gold lead for himself. So really firing on all cylinders so far for Limitless Future. And, you know, despite the fact that we thought they might have gotten outdrafted there, they know their draft, they know their win conditions, and so far they're playing to them extremely well.
Yeah, absolutely. Limitless Future looking strong, you know, early on into this game. They have early advantages everywhere on the map, quite honestly. You know, solo laners are doing okay for themselves here. In the mid lane, farm's about even, like about 3 CS lead right now for Fonzo, but that's going to even out, I imagine, in the near future. But you can see with Prio in that top lane, it's going to be an easy Rift Herald take here. And now Tally might be in trouble as Fonzo's running down, Conqueror's stacking up, but the Sleepy Trouble Bubble will keep the Zoe alive for another day. Snowlife is in the mid lane, looking for a play as both supports are roaming up. Going in, Zygon, Elastic Shot's gonna miss again, but now the teleport's coming in. Zygon is just dead again. What are you doing? You need to stop going in. The bandit toss from Snowlife finds Tally as Martial Arts is in the area now. Bromshield doing what it can to block it up, but it doesn't matter because a double kill comes through from Martial Arts. And 3 members dead for Lemon Citrus means that this mid lane tower is under siege. The Herald is available and ready for usage here, and I imagine it will get popped in a few short seconds when they take down this last plate, as the first tower of the game will go over to Limitless Future. And Limitless Future is angry that we didn't think that their draft was that good.
Yeah, and it's you know, they're just absolutely proving us wrong. You're right, Chains, and it's already a, you know, about a 6k gold lead here after that turret was taken, coming out from Limitless Future. Certainly they were kind of the favored team coming into this game, and they're just really showing why that's it. They're outlaning across the board as Snowlight flashes forward.
Snowlife going in here. Nice job, Glacierfish, to knock out the bullet time here, and Omnific might be a bit too far forward. Sexgod is firing away with those rockets. The flash will be used by both of the Limitless Future bot laners here, and now with the Summoner Spell advantage, you know, Lemon and Citrus will have an opportunity to sort of play aggressive for the time being in this lane.
Yeah, and, you know, speaking of gold advantage right now, if you look at... Oh,
I like this play here. Dive coming in. Elastic Slingshot's missing again, but Omnific will get rooted up. Flash forward is going to drag one back, and Omnific gets the kill, but will go down. Shutdown goes over to Zygon, and now it's time for Sex Goddess to try to get excited. Oh, one more auto for excitement. The flash is still not enough. One more is not enough either. But will go down eventually as Zygon will come back from the Cell Division and fall right away. Myth Jones on a killing spree now. But the shutdown from Omnific will go back over to Lemon Citrus. It's on the Zax, so not really the person you want. But either way, you know, it's some gold in the team's pockets at least.
And it's about a 1,300 gold lead right now, almost 1,400 for Omnific in terms of this AD carry position. So that's just a huge amount of gold. It's going to be a long time until this Jinx is able to match the power of that this MF kind of naturally brings into this early to mid game. So I would really look for for Limitless Future to be able to snowball their gold lead now. You know, it's 22 seconds before the next dragon. We'll see if the teams decide to fight for it. If I was Lemon Citrus, I would sit back right now. The second dragon, not that big of a deal. I would just give it on over, but we know these teams, they are often hungry to fight after these objectives.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is obviously a give here. 6k down, 14 minutes. It's a Cloud Dragon, whatever. Who cares, you know? You can go ahead and take it, guys. You know, if I'm Lemon Citrus, I'm okay. You say, okay, well, maybe we'll fight for 3rd or 4th drag. We'll see what happens here. And we do see that the Oceans bring life to the Rift here. Ocean Soul is on the table. That's going to mean extra bushes on the Rift. A little more cover. If a Rengar would be happy if there was a Rengar in this game.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, certainly we have seen changes to that, so hopefully we can see it at some point here in the CCS. But yeah, for right now, if you're Lemon Citrus, the name of the game is just trying to get some picks. They do have the tools to get it between the Zac and the Zoe. I would like to see Tali moving around the map a little bit, to be able to make something happen, try to land a bubble, but we might see a dive here in the bottom lane.
Yes, looking like a potential 4-man. Fonzo is sitting in the wings, though, to try to catch Tally in rotation. But Tally seems to know and ends up not walking in, but walking up very far. Still could be in trouble here as the bandage toss comes through. Gonna find its mark, as well as the curse of the sad mummy. Zoe gonna use the flash to get out, but the Sleepy Trouble will land. Snow Life under the tower will go down eventually, and now we'll see what can Zygon do. Gonna find the jump onto one, pull back, and just gets absolutely one shot. But the Super Mega Death Rocket does some damage, but not enough to take down Myth Jones. He is too tanky in the bottom lane. 1v1 between these two 80 carries, and you'd have to imagine Omnific will get the better of this if they opt to take it. Martial Arts walking through the tower, but 3 members are walking up for Limitless Future in this game. Bullet time. Sex God is taken really low and will go down a solo kill. And now we're going to see Showstopper into the top lane going through. Flash away from Bad Vibes, but the wave is gone. This could be a bit of a botched dive for Limitless Future if they take it too fast, but instead we'll just walk it out, wait for the waves to come in, and you see Bad Vibes has to leave the tower.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, obviously the dive doesn't come through, but I do have to give it to Limitless Future for knowing when to call off the dive. Definitely we see, especially at this level of play, sometimes teams decide, hey, we're committed to this dive. You know, honestly, that Bad Vibes, he was below half HP. But having the awareness to just know that, you know, there's no way we can pull this off. And they don't really lose that much, right? Like, they maybe lose a little bit of map pressure because they brought multiple members up there, but not having to expend summoner spells, not having to expend any deaths in exchange. You know, it's not really a victory for Limitless Future, but I like to see that discipline.
Absolutely, yeah. Definitely a good discipline there. I've seen so many times, you know, where a team say, listen, we're trying to make this dive happen. We're here. It didn't go the first time, but we have to force it now. And, you know, it obviously usually turns into a disaster. But you know what they say? Rinse and repeat. In this bottom lane, Sex God is taken into the death realm. And there is really no way at all that the Jinx will ever win this. Martial Arts goes on a rampage. And Bad Vibes is in trouble. 4 members strong here as the Haymaker Facebreaker combo will only delay the inevitable. Set goes down again.
Yeah, and you know, I didn't really like this Jinx coming out as the first pick from Lemon Citrus, and you know, yesterday we also saw it really struggle when Oblivion picked it up, and this is the reason why. It can so easily be victimized, especially just by these melee champions. I mean, Omnific also getting the solo kill on the MF against Sex Goddess.
Probably a bit too far forward. Will go down. Another nice bandage toss from Snow Life here, and trying to make a play into this bottom lane. Deathroom is not available. Now we're going to see some damage come through, and the shutdown will go over to Zygon. Martial Arts is shut down.
Yeah, and so, you know, that's nice, kind of punishing Martial Arts, who should have probably had a little bit more awareness in terms of not being able to continue pushing up there.
Another play as Snow Life finds a bandage toss, flashing forward. A second bandage toss lands, the pillar comes through, and Snow Life will find another kill for themselves on the Amumu. Bad Vibes is had enough going in. Gonna find a huge Haymaker. Gonna find 2 kills, going over a double kill so far. As now Myth Jones has run for the hills. Gets stunned up. The flash is available, but it will go over the wall used to safety. But the rest of the members are falling over with their own flashes. Another pillar will buy some space. Elastic Slingshot channeled up. Does not find the knockups, but Myth Jones is running. Has to run for so far as Zygon is chasing after him. The second Elastic Slingshot comes through. We'll get the pullback, but not that far. As yeah, the Trundle is just gonna live here.
Yeah, and Trundle just so tricky to be able to pick off, especially when you know, you have these immobile champions that don't have a way over the pillar. Obviously the Elastic Slingshot is there, but not kind of able to dash over. And we talked about being able to fight for this third dragon.
A lot of damage. Myth Jones, Ignite ticking down. And the shutdown will go over to Tale, but now you're gonna just die here. As there are 3 members staring you down. Fonz are gonna find the kills. There's a flash forward bandage toss from Snow Life. He's a menace on the Amumu. What did I say? But while that is going on, Lemon Citrus will take the dragon. Nice sidestep from Expressive to get out of that one, but the rest of Limitless Future is chasing. The Braum will go down to Fonzo, as they're still angry. Flash forward in the clawback from Martial Arts as Bad Vibes now finds himself in a rough situation. Bandage Toss gonna find the Krugs as the Haymaker's gonna find some members, but taken into the Death Realm instead as Martial Arts finds another kill. Now 5-1-2 on the Mordekaiser.
And Lemons is able to pick up the dragon, but is it worth it? I don't really think so in that situation. I almost wonder if it would have been better to try to fight. I think you're going to lose multiple members no matter what.
Omnific, again, Elastic Slingshot's gonna land, trying to live with the heal, but Sex Goddess will get excited. It's time. Mordekaiser put to sleep as another Elastic Slingshot's gonna land here. Super Mega Death Rocket is a zap, not enough, but Zoe goes in as Tally will find the shutdowns there. Now it's Mordekaiser versus the world, and the world is gonna win. Tally, a double kill for the Zoe. And the gold lead is still 6k, but you know, Limitless Future showing signs of life.
Yeah, and you gotta give a lot of credit to Zygon here on this Zac. He did pick up a couple of those shutdowns early on, which, you know, as we said, not necessarily the best for the gold to be able to go on to this kind of tanky Zac pick, but he has made it count, absolutely. And I like the fact that he also itemized towards this Abyssal Mask, definitely getting a lot of value against the amount of magic damage that is coming out from this composition from Limitless Future. And then on top of that, just enabling Tali to be able to follow up on his engage with the increased damage that it's able to facilitate. So I'm liking how this Zac pick is being played out so far, and like you said, right, Chains, it is still, you know, a pretty significant lead from Limitless Future, but now at this point it kind of looked like Lemons was out of the game. They're not out of it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, Lemons is showing signs of life, and we did talk about that this is a scaling composition from Lemon Citrus here. So, you know, you kind of expect them to lose a little bit early, but you gotta wait for this Jinx to scale up. You gotta wait for the Zac to scale up and, you know, sort of build these tank items. Set as well can be, you know, so hard to stop once you get into the later stages of the game here. You can see Herald timing out, so will be just spawned up into this mid lane. Lemon Citrus should be able to stop it, I believe. Yeah, nice body blocks there from Expressive and Zygon. So Herald, second Herald of the game, goes to waste rather. But now Bad Vibes in trouble as Martial Arts going around the back. Showstopper, we're going to take him for a ride for the time being. Haymaker's going to do some damage back as both of these top laners sitting at a little over half HP. Now we're going to see maybe a 4v4. Yes, looking for the last shot in. Going to find the knockups onto Snow Life. For the time being, Myth Jones going into the backside. Trying to find some damage. The Subjugate comes through. A Curse the Sad One is going to find a stun onto one, but look at the bullet time over the top. Teleport's coming through. Super Mega Death Rocket going to get blocked up by the frontliners of Limitless Future. Tally doing some damage with the paddle stars here, but you can see now kind of the disengage range advantage for Lemon Citrus. It's really hard to get onto them, you know, if they play correctly. But look at Fonzo on the top side. Expressive looking for a mark onto Martial Arts. We'll find it. But yeah, like I said, Fonzo on the top side, breaking away at that top lane inner tower as Lemon Citrus looks for the mid lane outer. It will get as the tower trade comes through here, but 5 members strong for Lemon Citrus in this mid lane for the time being as they're looking for the dive. Zygon going in, gonna find the stuns back, but will go into the death realm. Themselves will be divided for the time being, and Myth Jones will be put to sleep. Tally going a bit too far forward as Zygon somehow lives and flashes out to safety, but look at the flank from Fonzo. A 3-man stun comes through here as Jinx is the target. Sex Goddess will go down as Bad Vibes now in the middle of 5 members as Snowlight finds a kill onto Expressive, and it looks like a wipe for Limitless Future. They turn their sights onto the Baron after getting 3.
And things just go from bad to worse for Lemon Citrus there. Sure, it was okay at first with Zygon diving under the turret. Unfortunately, pretty much through the goalpost for him. You know, not necessarily able to get anyone. He is able to flash over the wall, surprisingly able to survive. But Fonzo coming through, getting the 3-member Petrifying Gaze off. I mean, that was just absolutely huge. And with that, Limitless Future easily able to pick up this Baron.
Absolutely, the gold lead now extended to 9,000 at 24 minutes. The kills 12 to 24 in favor of Limitless Future. They're up 3 towers. They got 2 dragons to their name, trying to make it a 3rd here as the Ocean Dragon will spawn in about 10 seconds. You can see all of them running down to this dragon as Bad Vibes walking top lane. No teleport available for the set, so maybe Lemon Citrus look for a steal here. Not too sure what the idea is because, you know, they have 4 members around the dragon, but you're not going to be able to fight at all, especially if you don't have that 5th member in set. Teleport's not available. The dragon will be started up for the time being. Zac, last shot going in, and he will find the steals. Now we're going to fight ensuing because it's time to bounce. Doesn't matter though because no teammates followed in, but Zygon gets the steal on that dragon.
Yeah, and that's a pretty big steal. Obviously, that dragon would have been huge for Limitless Future to be able to pick up. So, nice that he was able to get that one for himself.
Rest of Limitless Future now pushing down mid lane. They're wearing purple as Bad Vibes is still in the top lane. Gonna find the outer tower for themselves and their team. We're gonna see what kind of siege potential Limitless Future has. Snowlight flashing into the backline. 3-man curse that side bomb. He's a bullet time over the top. He's gonna find 1-2 as 2 kills going over. A double kill already for Omnific. The third to follow it up. And this should be the game, I'd say. 30 seconds or more death timers on 3 members as all 5 of Limitless Future are still alive. The inhib is down. What can Bad Vibes and Zygon do? Battle time is almost available here, and now we're gonna see Bad Vibes going in as the 3-man knockup comes through. Haymaker's doing a lot of damage. Showstopper's gonna find Myth Jones on the back. Martial Arts taking really low, but Bad Vibes will go down, and now it's Zygon versus the world. Flashing in, Martial Arts gonna find the ace, and the first Nexus Tower is gone. The second one is gonna go down as well. Martial Arts might die for it, but no, gonna go golden instead, as now maybe Snow Life might die for it, but no, the tower will fall. What can Expressive do in the 1v4? Not much here, as Martial Arts will take him into the death realm. The Nexus is still under siege as a few more autos come through, and Limitless Future will take game 1.
Yeah, and such good snowballing there on the side of Limitless Future. You have to be so impressed with the way that they're able to use that Baron buff, and then following up on that, how they're able to utilize those high impact ultimates that they ultimately drafted this team comp around. The Amumu from Snow Life, absolutely great. His kill involvement in this game was ultimately so absolutely critical. We can see he was involved in 23 out of the 30 kills that Limitless Future got. That is huge, super impressive. And they showed off the way that they were able to pair that up with the MF. It was really great. But ultimately, I want to point out Fonzo in this game, because Riot Chains, we both really doubted how well this Cassiopeia would be able to, match up against this Zoe. Would it be on the back foot all game? That's what we both kind of predicted. But instead, Fonzo, not only was he able to hold his own in the lane, he was actually 1v2ing at a certain point when Zygon was coming in. So just very impressive from the mid laner of Limitless Future. And when you're able to just blind pick something like a Cassiopeia and make it work, it becomes really scary in the next draft for Lemon Citrus.
Limitless Future play with a chip on their shoulder here in game 1, looking strong with a commanding victory in 26 minutes. And we are going to take a short break, but don't go anywhere, because we will be back shortly for game number 2 between Limitless Future and Lemon Citrus. welcome back to game 2 between Limitless Future and Lemon Citrus. We are into the draft here, getting these bans out of the way. Limitless Future taking away that Talia and Ari again. Lemon Citrus going to take away Seraphine and Aatrox.
Yeah, so not too much switch up in terms of the bans here. I feel like both teams, were happy. Maybe we're happy with what they were able to pick up last game. It did not really seem like, there was any specific counter picks for me that stood out too strongly. And now we do see the Amumu being banned away by Lemon Citrus. I really like that ban. It was just kind of too strong for Snowlife. He seems to kind of be the specialist for it. But with that being said, it does leave up that Jarvan, which was banned last game actually by Limitless Future. And that one's going to be picked up for Myth Jones having that strong jungle priority.
Yeah, and on the other side, Lemon Citrus immediately going to take up Jin Zhao and Aphelios. So Aphelios, I know, got some nerfs on this patch, right?
Yep. Yeah, he did. I believe like his base damage possibly got a little bit of a nerf. So kind of curious that Lemon Citrus would still decide to go with that one. Not picking up any support to go with it so far. I know the Thresh is one that a lot of people like to pair with it. Thresh also actually getting nerfed in this most recent patch. But maybe something like the Braum as well, which Lemon Citrus did obviously favor in the last game. And interestingly enough, Limitless Future, they're going to take a page out of Lemon Citrus's book, and they're going to just pick up this Jinx, knowing that the Jin Zhao and the Aphelios is what it's against so far. Jinx, as far as I know, pretty safe lane into the Aphelios, especially since both of these are pretty scaling AD picks, so they want to pick that one up for themselves.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this that much. I guess we'll see what happens when the supports come through here. Lux gonna be the option for Limitless Future. It could be mid or support. I would imagine it's support because it's Snowlife, but
yeah,
you never know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And to be honest, as Thresh does get picked up by Lemon Citrus, we'll see where this Lux does go. I would also anticipate it to go to the support role. I mean, maybe I'll eat my words if I'm wrong, but I really am not a big fan of this bot lane coming out from Limitless Future. It's just so squishy. If at any point a hook from the Thresh is able to come through on honestly either the Lux or the Jinx, it's going to be kind of game over, especially if Jin Zhao can get in there as well, being lanterned in from the Thresh, or just being able to honestly run straight in, because for Jinx and Lux, neither of them does have very good escapability. Now, there is some ability to layer the Chompers and the Light Binding to bring some kind of CC. But, overall, I think this bot lane from Limitless Future, it's a really feast or famine lane.
Yeah, I agree with you as well here. Aphelios Thresh is pretty hard to play into. But, we'll see how it goes. Limitless Future bot lane looked really strong in game 1. So, I think they're feeling themselves right now. Shen's going to be locked in for the top lane of Lemon Citrus. I do want to mention solo lane bans coming through for each of the teams. Lemon Citrus banning away mid laners in the Diana and Orianna, and Limitless Future wanting to throw their bans to the top lane, giving a little respect to Bad Vibes, banning out the set and the Gangplank. Limitless Future thinking about the set, but are going to go with the Darius instead. Okay.
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit, with Galio looks like possibly the last option for Limitless Future, which actually still does leave the Lux as, a flex pick. But when it's dangerous to pick Shen and just be willing to take anything into it, obviously Shen is something that it's more of a team-focused champion. So, he will be able to use his ultimate to get around the map, to be able to help out the rest of his team. Certainly helpful to go on top of the Aphelios. But with Darius going into the Shen, I mean, this is going to feel bad in the lane phase for the Shen, almost certainly. Definitely going to want to get some help from Zygon early on. Otherwise, I think this Darius will have a strong chance to just be able to take over the lane phase. But like I said, Galio locked in. We'll see what Lemon Citrus wants to answer with.
Looking like Rise. Galio does have the magic damage shield. So Lemon Citrus has no magic damage on their team, really. So you kind of have to expect that it's going to be some AD pick in the mid lane, and Rise is the choice for Tally in this mid lane. I really like Rise a lot. I'm a big fan of the champion, but it is a relatively hard matchup into Galio just because Galio has that built-in magic damage shield.
Yeah, and on top of that, Galio is also able to bring a lot of wave clear to the table in this lane. You know, one of the best things that Ryze is kind of known for is that he does have that ability to clear out the waves relatively quickly. But going against the Galio, you know, both picks having quite a bit of wave clear. Ryze as well, not bringing the longest of ranges to the table, which means that he's usually kind of in range for the Justice Punch from Galio, from the taunt. So we'll have to see how they're able to play this one, how Tali does do on this Ryze. I would have actually been okay to see him picks up the Zoe again, as it wasn't really the issue for them, I didn't feel like, at least in game one. So as we do go through this client draft now, I'll be interested to see, because, you know, we do have to keep in mind the Lux. It could be a mid lane Lux as well. I would almost kind of like that a little bit more, just because the Lux brings a lot of range against the Ryze, similarly does well in the matchup, and I just think Galio is kind of a better match into Thresh than Lux, but we'll see what these teams prefer.
Yeah, only time will tell here as we, you know, are into the client pick ban. Now we'll actually be able to see where each player is going to take each specific champion. And the mid lane locks are coming in soon, so we will see, you know. I am pretty excited, but yeah, I mean, this game, I mean, I would say that I like Limitless Future's draft. However, if bot lane gets behind, it's going to be a bit rough.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I think one thing that helps Limitless Future is that, you know, though the Darius probably would like to get some ganking pressure from the Jarvan, it's not as necessary. The Darius is kind of able to win that matchup on his own, especially if, you know, he probably will have to look out from ganks from the Xin Zhao, but it does free up Myth Jones on the Jarvan to be able to focus a little bit on this bot lane. Now, with that being said, one of the best things about Jarvan is his ability to play against immobile carries like this Aphelios. He cataclysms on top of them, and they're kind of stuck in there. Thresh kind of breaks that mold, right? He has that lantern to be able to rescue his carry from the cataclysm, and that's why, you know, so often we do see the Thresh picked up alongside picks like the Aphelios, and even often the Jinx as well.
I agree, yeah. I mean, Thresh is a really good pick here, especially into the Jarvan, right? One, you can cancel the flag and drag. Second, you can lantern, you know, one person out of the cataclysm, and that is really, really, really valuable, especially, you know, in a support role, especially when you have carries who are not mobile, like the Aphelios. So Aphelios, you know, if Thresh isn't there, if Expressive is not on top of it with these lanterns, we saw him on top, or we saw him playing the Braum last game. Relatively good job, you know, stopping the bullet times with the Braum ultimate himself, but you know, the reaction time is going to be very, very important here to see what Expressive can do and how well he's able to save Sex Goddess on the Aphelios.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, we had talked about how the Lux and the Galio were flex picks. Well, we are seeing that the Lux is going to go into the bottom lane, so it will be that kind of longer range bottom lane composition from Limitless Future, and Galio for Fonzo into the mid lane. Fonzo did play so incredibly well in game one. I already shouted out with that Cassiopeia, so we'll see if he's able to repeat it with his performance from the Galio. You know, was very comfortable taking those blind picks. And before we go into the spectator delay, I did want to talk just really briefly about kind of the playoff implications here. Game one, it was taken by Limitless Future. Both of these teams, they really would like to get a spot in the playoffs, and they are both in competition to do so. But with that being said, one win from either of these teams is enough to get them into the playoffs. So with their first win in the series, Limitless Future, they have secured their playoff spot. Lemon Citrus, on the other hand, if they do go ahead and lose this game, it means that a Goldfish Gaming win against PGO, which is being played right now, that would mean that Lemon Citrus is out. So Lemons, even if they're not able to take this entire match, they really want to win this game.
A win is crucial here. Will Lemon Citrus's playoff hopes live another day, or will Limitless Future shatter them viciously? We'll see, but we're going to get into a short spectator delay, so don't go anywhere, because we'll be right back onto the Rift for game number 2 between Limitless Future and Lemon Citrus.